this is Denise, this is her skill set, this is who she is. She's an asset to the team. The team is an asset to the company. So the goal is always one Microsoft. What can I do that's going to, make the team look good, that's going to make my org look good, that's going to make an impact to our customers, that's going to make Microsoft look good.
Hello and welcome to C-Safe Collab Space. My name is Amy Cisse, and today we have Denise Holland. Denise, it is always a pleasure speaking with you. So, of course, I had to have you on the podcast because you have had such extraordinary experiences in the tech industry, in my mind anyway. So I definitely wanted to put the spotlight on you today and just share all the greatness that you have kind of imparted on me throughout the years. So Denise, pleasure to have you. Can you provide an introduction of who you are?
Well, first of all, I thank you, Amy, for inviting me here today so we could spill the tea a bit. My name is Denise Holland, and I have been in the IT space since 1998. I started my career as an engineer, systems engineering, and then virtualization engineering, and then moved into program management. I've worked at lots of different companies, law firms. I've worked for the federal government, and then I've moved on to AWS, and I'm now currently working at Microsoft. So it's been a wonderful journey, and I hope that I can continue to pay it forward.
Excellent. So what are you doing at Microsoft these days?
All sorts of secrets, spicy things. I work on a team where we're working to build out and expand and improve our network. Networking is the key to our business. We're a software company, and we're trying to make certain that we stay ahead of the game with new technologies, AI, and things that are coming here in the near and the distant future. So always looking for what that next new technology is and how to enhance it.
Perfect. So are you working with particular companies? Are you kind of just working for Microsoft as a whole to just support the infrastructure as a whole? Are you working with partners? What does that look like?
I miss working with external customers, but what I do at Microsoft is different groups within our company are my customers. So I work to improve and expand upon our current infrastructure. So no external customers directly, but what I do definitely impacts anybody that uses any of our services.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So how did you get this role? Did it just land in your lap? Did you know someone? Did you just apply for a job? How did that work?
How did I get my current role, or how did I get to Microsoft?
Because you had a different role at Microsoft previously.
That's correct.
So how did you get in the door at Microsoft? Let's start there.
I was looking for my next new day one experience. I was at Amazon. Had been doing lots of good work there, but wanted to take that next step. I applied for a role at Microsoft, and that's what got me started. In October will be 6 years that I've been at Microsoft. And my current role was due to work I'd done previously for the leadership that joined the team that I'm on now. So it was a bit of work experience, actual experience in the role that I was moving into, and then having that good networking that I'd had with previous leaders, managers that were now in this new space. So it was good timing. It was good timing.
And so that's an interesting aspect, right? Because I think usually when you hear about networking and how it ties to you getting in the door, it sounds like you had to network while you were in the door to continue to move up.
Yes, I would say that for anyone. At Microsoft, the goal there is to, always make certain that you have a career by design, not by default. So you own your career. Don't just let your career fall into some sort of stagnant, position where you don't know where it's going. So every 6 months, reevaluate where you're going. Every 2 to 3 years, ask yourself, are you still making the impact that you want on this team? If not, then you have the opportunity at Microsoft to make those changes. So I got to a point in my career about a year ago where I was like, this has been great, but what would be more fulfilling? And that encouraged me to apply for a position. It turned out that it was someone that I had worked with previously who knew of my work. And then I joined the new team, and it's been a lot of fun and a lot of work ever since.
So basically, it sounds like you're always asking yourself, what's next?
Yes. Otherwise, you're going to get bored. I mean,
Right.
IT is, for me, it's exciting. I've been doing it forever. And so I'm always looking, what new thing can I learn? What new thing can I improve? What value can I
Mm.
add? And so that's a big thing. And so you spend a lot of time at work. Why are you going to spend time on work being mediocre? Why not just be a rock star? So think about it that way. So, and right now I feel like I'm being a rock star. I'm adding value, and we're doing well. So it's a good time.
I like that though, right? Because if you're focused on being a rock star, everybody's going to see it. And it's like a natural progression to flourish in your career, to advance to the next level, because you're always trying to achieve the next greatest and latest levels. And it means you're not going to be stagnant where you are.
Definitely. And I think that at Microsoft, we've got this one Microsoft mentality where everybody should be empowered to do the best that they possibly can. So when someone comes and they're like, I need to do this thing here, the first thing I'm thinking is, all right, how does that factor in with what I've got going on currently? Is it a higher priority, the same priority, lower priority? I rarely tell someone no, because you want to create that relationship that that person can at least come to you and bounce an idea off of you. Um, but I try to think, what could I do that I could impart some wisdom or help that person? So am I going to partner with them? Am I going to introduce them to someone that I know that would be a better fit? Am I going to be a mentor to that person? Just always trying to figure out what is it that I can do. So I'd say probably 80% of my time is focused on, my work at hand, but then the other 20% is trying to pay it forward. Being a woman of color back in 1998 was a struggle. And I remember those days. And so when people come to me, I'm like, sure, I've got time. Let's talk about it. So that's how you pay it forward. So 80% is work, and then 20% is just trying to be a good human.
That's awesome. I like that. So, mhm.
No, it just helps. It makes you sleep better at night.
Exactly. I like that. Your conscience is clear. You've done good in the world. You've been a positive reinforcement to others. They know they can come to you. I really like that a lot. And I think that when you help people, it comes back to you, because people in turn usually want to help you in return, because you've lent a helping hand, even if you didn't have to.
And I think that's how I got the position that I'm in now, is
Mm.
because I've always, I do what I need to do, but then I'm always like, all right, I remember when I was early in career, this would have been helpful for me. Or I remember when I had a really challenging program, let me try to see what I can do to help that person. So for a while, on one of my teams at Microsoft, I was like Miss Onboarding. Everybody came through the Denise onboarding. And I was like, this person isn't even in my group. And they're like, okay. I'm like, I'm happy to try to help, but you're good at it. And I'm like, okay. So yeah.
I can see that, because you have such an infectious personality too. So I can see people just coming to you and just asking for it, because they probably think you know everything.
Nope. I know three things. That's it. That's it. But I'm open. So if you've got a question and I know the answer, I'll definitely tell you. If I don't know the answer, I probably know somebody who could help you.
Yes,
So
I like that. And what about your team dynamic? How do you get things done? How do you get your team motivated? Because you have people reporting to you, correct?
I don't have people reporting to me now. We just went through a reorg, but that's not to say that you never know. Right now, it's more not necessarily having people that you manage, but being a good leader. And so when you've got good leadership skills, then people come to you. So you don't necessarily need to be a people manager. I think I think leadership should be the first thing you think about, being that role model. And then if you want to be a people manager or if a position presents itself, then great. But you can't simply just be a people manager. You've got to be a leader. You've got to be someone that provides solutions. You got to be someone that provides support. And I think that's the first thing. If you want to be a people manager, great. If not, you can still, like I said, be a great leader.
So where did you get that from in all your years of being in tech, right? Was it just seeing other examples of maybe not so great leadership? Like, where did that come from?
I think you see a mixture of both. I mean, there are people that I remember, my very first manager was awesome. I was at a law firm. This was right before Y2K. He was a man of color, very fair, very technically savvy, but also very, very good leadership, very collaborative. Then I've had other leaders that were micromanagers or people that, had been promoted into positions that they weren't necessarily comfortable in. So that you have different displays of leadership there, but you can't let that shake your core. We don't all get great managers every time. Sometimes we have managers that are somewhat okay, and sometimes you have managers that are just not a good fit. But you have to figure out how to manage it yourself in the situation. So I think that's been the thing that's helped me along. There have been a lot of really great managers, and there have been some that maybe needed a little bit of improvement.
But I like the concept of manage yourself because that's really the only person that you have control over. And that spills over from the personal realm of things and even in the work realm of things.
You can't do anything about someone else. You can't make someone change their mind or treat you differently, or all you can do is say, all right, I'm going to manage how I feel about this. And especially in the workplace, especially like I said, in the early years, that was tough. You're a woman of color. You're usually the only woman in the room. There is a lot of unconscious bias. There's a lot of mansplaining. Um, and you can't let it demotivate you. You can't let it deter you. You went to school, you got the education, you got the certifications. You have a right at that table just like everyone else. So you just have to dig your heels in and just say, I'm a rock star, and just keep it moving. And eventually they'll be like, well, maybe she is a rock star.
Yep. You say it enough, everyone will. If you say enough to yourself, then you'll believe it and everyone else will too.
True, true. My daughter last, she was like, my daughter, she's like, I don't know how you do it, Mom. She's like, your favorite word is fabulous. And I'm like, well, you have to, sometimes you have to fake it till you make it. And those early days were challenging. I learned a lot, but could it have been easier? Definitely. But it wouldn't have made me the person that I am today had I not gone through it.
Right. That's so true because I think that you have to, if you don't have it, you have to find some confidence somewhere. Being in this realm of being in tech, and so I started 2003, and it was still very rough. And I remember even being in school, like in college, and I'm like you said, I'm probably the only person of color, I'm probably the only female,
Mm-hmm.
and just figuring out how you navigate those spaces. So sometimes it's not always about fitting in. Sometimes it's about you being confident enough and knowing that you might not fit in and it's okay. But you're going to be focused on getting the work done, and that's all that matters.
And that's what matters. Things have become more collaborative here over the years. I remember back in the day, 1998, 2003, it was very siloed. you know, this person did this and only that person did that. There was never any sort of load balancing, or certain people got certain projects and then certain people, it was tough. There was definitely a ceiling. But I will say that, you know, even at the larger companies at AWS, here at Microsoft, it is collaborative. But you have to make certain that you have visibility. No one knows who you are unless you ask for that visibility or you show that value. And then people are like, oh, okay. And that helps. But you have to, at that point, like I said, you do have to have not not aggressiveness, not cockiness. You just need to have confidence in your abilities and assertiveness. And that's very different than, it's not abrasive. It's just, this is Denise, this is her skill set, this is who she is. She's an asset to the team. The team is an asset to the company. So the goal is always one Microsoft. What can I do that's going to, make the team look good? That's going to make my org look good. That's going to make an impact to our customers. That's going to make Microsoft look good. So it's one of those things where it's sort of a feel good. I know this sounds cheesy, but no, yeah. I actually like the people that I work with. So that's also a good thing. It's good when you go to work and you like the people that you work with. Makes the day go faster.
Yes, it does. And of course, the camaraderie and just having each other's backs. Because you don't get that in all the different types of industries that you work in. And you mentioned you work in law firms. So how is some of those other dynamics, government agencies, different than what your experiences are now at Microsoft?
Well, with law firms and with the federal government, there are different rules. So with law firms, there's confidentiality. There's certain things that you can do. You can say the same thing with the government. Different clearances, things of that stature. With the government, technology is a bit slower because they need to make certain that the technology is baked in, that it's secure, that there aren't any gaps, that you can easily upgrade from one technology to the next. By the government, I learned a lot about security and data classifications and confidentiality and things of that sort. With the law firms, it was more of just trying to bring really smart people together and make them more collaborative. It's almost like a caste system within law firms that I felt back in the day. There were lawyers, and then there were people who were not lawyers. But if I'm your IT person and I am securing and protecting your most valuable work product, which is your document, we need to work a little bit more collaboratively than we've been before. So no negative energy to lawyers, but it was just an experience. It's much more collaborative, much more free-flowing, much faster working in a company like AWS, working in a company like Microsoft.
That's a really good point, because I feel like sometimes when you're working for a non-tech company, the tech that you are working on as a technical individual might be that technology is not a priority, right? Or it's not as important as the people who are billable, or it's that you're working on older technology because they haven't upgraded to the latest and greatest, especially back in the day, right? Like back in the day when it was all servers and the people had to maintain the servers.
Yes.
Sometimes it was a slow transition to the upgrade process. And I have felt like years ago working for other companies where, maybe I don't want to work on this access database thing and learn it, because
oh my
how
goodness,
is it going to help me grow as a professional, right?
Right.
If I'm doing development and I'm writing code and what's the value in it as it relates to my professional development?
I would agree with that. it's difficult when you're not billable. So that right there was the defining characteristic of law firms. There's billable staff and there's non-billable staff. And even though back then it was, brick and mortar. So there was a server room and you went there and there was physical engineering and then there was logical engineering tasks that you did. But I don't know if at that point, and it's not to discredit, but I just don't think they understood the value that IT staff brought and they didn't understand the level of effort. So you definitely know the amount of time that it takes to prepare a brief or to, argue a case in court or to file some whatever. But it was back then, it was just unclear. So, but today, I'm certain that IT staff within law firms, they do know that they are assets. It was new. And so they just didn't know. And they were accustomed to this is billable and this is not billable. But that doesn't mean just because you're not billable that you don't add value. And I think that that's a lesson that once the technology, had some time and it moved from its infancy stages into pretty much mass production. I remember I got into IT because I was an office manager. And one of the partners came up and said, we need to upgrade to this thing called Office 98 and we don't know how to do it. And we need to back up our files and we're not sure what to do. Can you do it? And I'm like, sure.
I knew that's going to be your response.
I lied. I found a course. I took it. I found a mentor and I figured it out. And that's how I got into it. But, today, we've got new things that are coming up. We've got, AI and all sorts of other things that are new. And that with some governance, it's going to have to go through its infancy and then move into, mass production and use and then go on from there. So it's just one of those things where there's always something new and there's always an adoption period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And do you feel like now that I would say, considering that there's much more heavy usage of Microsoft 365 and me coming from the SharePoint world where it was on-prem and now everything's in the cloud and Office products, right? Like the updates are all cloud driven that are rolled out and all the updates that come to Teams and all these apps. Like, do you feel like companies are taking the technology more seriously now in that sense of it's changing so fast and it's like you have to adopt, right? Like you have to kind of get on board maybe with the changes that are rolling out because like you said, with AI, it's happening and all these changes are happening regardless of, in my perspective, it's like regardless of your comfort level, it's coming and you just have to prepare or it's here, right? You have to prepare.
You have to prepare it, especially if you are regardless of whether your business or it's personal, you want to make certain that you understand the technology and that you can apply it because you don't want to be left behind. Right. So there's the ramp up is fairly short. Before, when I first started, you could still have, Windows 98 and it's 2005 or whatever it was because they were still trying to support that. But as technology changes, as improvements are made, as our coding improves, as, the next new thing is out there, you can't continue to support archaic technology. So you have to end of life things. So you have to keep up because you don't want to find yourself unable to navigate with the new technology. So that does require, just being interested in learning. That's another reason why I never say no. Because if it's something that I don't know, I'm like, ooh, I need to figure this out. So I'll say sure. And then I'll go read something, sign up for a class, figure it out, and then go from there. But I think you need to be curious to keep up with that.
It's very true. That's how you learn how to do the Windows 98 upgrade, right?
He walked up to me and I was like, sure. Sent a note to a friend. I was like, hey, I have no idea what I'm doing. And they walked me through it. I didn't break anything. I didn't tear anything up. So that was a win.
Push the buttons and you figure it out.
was like, I'm going to need to have a sandbox. We need to test this first. But, I had a good mentor. He walked me through it. And, I did a few more upgrades and some things at the law firm. And then someone from another law firm was like, hey, we've got some positions over here. You wouldn't have to be an office manager, jack of all trades. You could be a systems administrator and shadow someone and move into an engineering position. And I thought, well, that would be great. And that's how it got started.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yep, I was an office manager.
That's awesome. I love to hear those stories of how people got into tech. That's awesome. It was
Yep.
saying yes to a Windows 98 upgrade.
It was a Windows 98 upgrade. It was 1998. And I was minding my business and a knock on my door. And it was one of the partners. And they wanted to upgrade. And they were talking about, yeah, we need to start backing up files. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. They're like, could you help us? And I was like, sure. And that's how it started.
That's awesome. So when you took on that new role as an engineer, what were you doing in that capacity?
When I went to the other firm, I first started out, they wanted us to have a foundation. So I started out on the help desk. So they wanted us to understand the types of questions that come in. Then there's another period where we actually went to the actual desks and desktop support. And then as a systems administrator, it was just the low-level tasks, just make certain that we're doing differentials or what sort of backups we're doing, make certain that we've got a development area we're testing updates before Patch Tuesday, because, Patch Tuesday would break everything. And so
Yes.
I was like, oh my gosh, everything would be broken and people would be screaming. So we got smart. We're like, well, let's gonna just have it apply to this test area. Let's see what we break. Let's see if we can fix it or roll it back. And then, that over the weekend, we'll push it out. And if we break stuff, most people are at home and we'll fix it before they get here on Monday. So, yeah.
That is so funny. I remember Patch Tuesday. So I was not involved in Patch Tuesday. It was usually like the network folks. But I'm in the office and I'm like, yep, there's a fire drill going on over there. But if anything from the network side impacted SharePoint, that's when now I have to be involved, right? So I do remember those days.
You just have to have a plan. You're like, all right, we know that it's Patch Tuesday. You would just set policy. We're going to wait. We're going to apply it to this area here. We're going to see if we break anything. We don't break anything. We're
good.
We're good. And we'll push it out. And if we break anything over the weekend, because that was back in the day where you had a laptop and a pager, and you would just check stuff all weekend. Are we good? Are we good? Are we good? And you'd send a note out and you would tell people we're good or we're not good. And then whoever was on the list had to come in. We had to do work. So
I remember those days. Again, it wasn't always for us, but because we had to maintain the servers, or sometimes we will be doing like data backups from a development environment to production, had to happen on the weekend if it was like massive environments. And I remember either your Saturday is going to go well, or you start at 9, 8 o'clock in the morning, and maybe you're done by noon, or your entire weekend can be fixing things.
And again, that's where I'm like, you have to keep a good mentality about it, because sometimes it was good. Like we were all worried about Y2K. Everybody had no New Year's plans that year because we were all worried that once it flipped over to 2000, that everything was, and we were sitting in the offices waiting and we had planned everything. And then 12 o'clock, 12:01, 12:15, 12:30. I mean, we sat there like, it's going to break. It's going to break. Nothing happened. But then there's some things where you're like, oh, this just this one patch, service patch, this one. And then you're like down all weekend. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Y2K, which we were worried to death about, and we prepared for nothing. Mm. But let Patch Tuesday come.
So how how do you feel like, based on all of your engineering background that you have gained throughout all the years, like how did it prepare you for where you are now? Like, are you touching as much technology now, or is it more of, I understand, I know enough to be dangerous, and I know how to direct decisions or the teams? Like, are you touching as much? You're not touching as much technology these days, correct?
I'm not
But
actually touching it, not at a tactical level, but strategically, you have to know what's going on because people are looking to you to make a recommendation. So you need to understand it. And then at a global level, you've got to get in and you've got to get in, you've got to commit, you've got to make a decision. You don't have like 6 months. You have to think about what's the probability of this failing? What's the probability of this impacting? What's the probability of this causing a delay? But on the flip side, what's the probability that this is going to be able for us to pull in a month for our deliverable, that we're going to be able to scale faster? So you sort of, you weigh your bets and then you make a decision and then you stick to it. A lot of times it works. Every once in a while you're like, okay, we're going to have to regroup, but that comes with your team. And so I think the best thing I could tell anyone is, after being a good human, make certain that you earn the trust of people and you create an environment where people will collaborate with you. When you have that, when there are problems, people are more likely to come and tell you before it becomes like something where, there's some phone tree call and everybody is, on a call. So that's been the best thing with Microsoft, is that once you've got that trust and you've got that respect and people know that you will do what you need to do for the team, that people will go, hey, there's this thing that's going on over here and it might not be a big deal, but I wanted to bring it to your attention. And then you can hopefully avert, a crisis. You can be proactive. And if it's something you share with other teams and go, hey, we had this problem over here on our team. Do you have anything like that? And then you can create a V team, what we call a virtual team, a global team, and you can sit there and how do we work this out and work our way out of a V team? How do we take this problem, solve it, apply it where we need to apply it, and then, continue to grow our business. So that's the fun thing, is when you get to work with people that are, in different time zones and are on different teams and you're all working towards one goal, that right there makes it fun.
awesome. I like that a lot because you can't avoid having issues, but having the analytical thought process to think through how to resolve those issues and using the information that you have to make the best decision at the time. And it's okay if it doesn't work out because you'll just, revise, like you said, make adjustments for the next phase or the next problem or issue or whatever comes your way. But at least you have the team where you have the confidence, where they have the confidence in knowing that you support them and you all support each other. And it's like a united front when you're trying to tackle issues or just find solutions. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite sayings. The team is, I'm always like, we all need to be saying the same thing.
Mhm.
If I'm saying up and you're saying down, it doesn't look like that we understand what the problem is and that we're not clear. So I probably over communicate. I'm like, are we all saying the same thing? And so now people parrot that back to me. Denise, we are saying the same thing. I'm like, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Happy Friday. Thank you. So,
Yes. So I call that like getting into alignment,
mhm.
right? So sometimes we have to work with different partner companies and you have all these, or we're working with a client and you all have to be in alignment and in one accord because people communicate differently. And,
Right.
if someone is thinking something different, it's good to hear out someone else's thought process, because then you can shape the entire solution together, because there's could be some things that you didn't think about in the end, right? And so it's that collaborative nature, as you mentioned, where we're finding solutions together, we're on mortal core, we're saying the same thing, we're getting into alignment so that we are achieving the same outcomes and the same goals. So I love that.
There's so much work to be done that we all have to, come with our A game. Everybody has to come in the right mindset, and people have to come and they have to want to work together. And so if you don't have that, you might be able to achieve, your goals, finish your deliverables, do whatever needs to be done on time. But how, it feels really great when we've had a big win, because then the whole team is like, we did this, we did this. Yes, we did it. It was great. If we were not as tight knit as we are, you might not be willing to do that next Mount Everest. And there continue to be challenges every week. It's something new. It's like, oh, okay. But because we've already got that foundation with the team, we're pretty much like, okay, let's do it. Let's fix it.
I like that. And I like the we part that you mentioned, because I have seen leaders in different capacities have a team, but then say I. And I think that's the most disheartening word to use when it's not just you, right? There's people behind you, right? And even if you're the face of the team, giving people credit for their contributions, I think is important too.
That is definitely important. That's another reason why I'm happy where I am, is that that's something that's important. So part of our performance reviews is that you need to show basically how you're being a good human. Are you in an employee resource group? Are you being a mentor? What are you doing to pay it forward? And so with the whole company having that mindset, it's a much softer place to land than some of my companies that I've worked at previously. Not that they were not great companies, but I'm definitely team Microsoft. So
that's awesome to hear. It was a pleasure speaking with you today, Denise. Thank you so much for joining me. After that, there is nothing else to say, right?
Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. I definitely encourage folks, definitely be your authentic self. Get out there, learn something, be a good human, pay it forward. I mentor 5 people. My Fridays are spent, going through and helping people through. Just get out there and just make an impact. You are a rock star, and there's only one of you, and you've got unique talents and skills. Let people know about it. And if you're in a position where you're not utilizing your skills, make certain that you network. Get out there and have one-on-ones with people who you do, aspire to be, or who impresses you. Ask them how they got to where they are, and then figure out that next step in your career path. Don't sit there and know that you have to stay in this role, or you have to stay at this company, or no, tomorrow's not promised. You spend way too many hours at work. Make certain it's something that you actually enjoy doing. I keep my daily job alerts on every day, not because I'm trying to go anywhere, but I just want to, what if my ideal job pops up? That's just me. You don't want to have a missed opportunity. So that I have that open. I talk to my sponsor. I talk to my mentor. That's something else. You should have a sponsor and a mentor. A mentor is someone that, is maybe a role model, somebody that's in your field that you would like to aspire to be. But a sponsor is more important than a mentor. A sponsor is somebody that's in the room with your manager at manager level meetings. And these pertain to your performance. So if you get up to a point where you could be promoted, not only do you have your manager speaking on your behalf, but you have one of your manager's peers going, oh yeah, Denise did this, she worked on that. So you've got more leverage. And as women, and as women of color in particular, we need all of the help that we can get. So if you don't have a mentor, get one. Once you get a mentor, talk to your mentor about how you could ease into identifying a sponsor in your current team and then reaching out to that person. People like to talk. And if you reach out to someone and go, hi, they'll probably be like, okay. So get a sponsor, get a mentor, network, be a good human.
Yes. And you could also even just look at what's out there just to see what other skill sets you may learn. Because that's another important factor too, is just how are you growing? How are you evolving? Growing your skill set, learning something new, and being in a space where it's allowed to grow and to support what your goals are in life.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, just keep learning and make certain that you enjoy what you do. You spend too many hours every week at work. Make certain you're doing something that you enjoy doing.
Yes, I agree. Is there anything else you would like to share?
Nope, it was just great. It was great having this time with you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. How can the audience get in contact with you?
I am on LinkedIn, a Microsoft company. Sorry, y'all. I'm Team Microsoft. But I'm on LinkedIn, and I am Denise-K-Holland. And so
right.
I'm there, and I'm happy to, talk to anyone, early in career, middle career, whatever. I like volunteering. So if there are events or things like that, definitely, I'm out and about doing something. So I'd love to connect with folks.
All right. Well, thank you, Denise. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.